Hello. Before I begin my video, fair warning. If you are scared by anything to do with real paranormal activity, any true stories out there of things that actually have happened, and anything to do with the paranormal world, please change the YouTube channel now. I'm quite sure you can find a whole host of wonderful music channels or cooking shows or other things. However, if you are into the goth subculture and do enjoy the paranormal, welcome to this video. Well, I made up a little Halloween display because this video is going to be produced and put up before Halloween. So for all my brothers and sisters out there, I hope you really enjoy this. What this is today is just turn on the camera, sit back, relax, and just be emptying my heart and my soul out to you about things that have happened in my life. I was born in 1972. I'm going to be taking you all the way from 1974 all the way up until the 2024s, which is of this year. And I'm going to take you backwards in time to the year 1827 and share with you a little bit about the house that I've inherited, but more or less that, all of the stuff that has happened in this New England home. Again, for those of you who really enjoy paranormal activity and things like that, yes, this home that my mother and father had purchased back a ways has it. And I'm going to be sharing with you stories today that I had collected with my mom and I, going backwards in time to when they first purchased the house, its history, all that we know about it, and experiences. So I had to absolutely confirm all the stories that my mom had. Now that my dad's passed away, confirm stories that I had heard from my father through my mom, and then all the stories that I had experienced and compare them with my mom. And so it took a long time to compile all this information. That's why this video comes out so late. However, let's just slip right into the talk about what I'm going to be talking to you about. The first thing is that the home that I have inherited is, well, formerly a church. It was a Methodist church built in 1827 in central New England. So it is a 196-year-old dwelling. And from 1827 to 1850, it was a church and a meeting house. And we know all the people that had lived there. We know who the pastors were who lived there. We know about what happened afterwards. We even have the stone in the front of the house where the parishioners would walk through the front door. So hundreds of people have entered our dwelling that we have in our home as a house now. In 1850, the house became a house. It was converted from a church into a home, or they say the dwelling. And from 1850, a family by the name of Benjamin Church, his wife Susanna, and his daughter Jane and Mary had lived there. They had created a boarding house, so they had a lot of other people come. And they changed the house from a typical 2-bedroom home into a 7-bedroom home to accommodate all the people that were moving in and out. And the reason why of this was there's a woolen mill that is just beyond our house. We have a large lake where they produce woolen mill in Massachusetts. And people came to live and work in the area, and they needed someplace to stay, so the home became basically a boarding house. So the churches were basically making money off of people who were working at the woolen mills, or any other job that they were going to, or schooling and so forth. Well, later on, Mr. Church would die, and we do have to point to the fact that this is during the Victorian era. And all funerals were done inside the houses. So basically, we would probably say that Benjamin Church was laid out in our living room. This is a culmination of different things because we also know where the Church family is buried. And Mrs. Church would then later on go on to remarry And her extended family would then move into this home. And thus begins my story. So there were 7 families that lived in this house from 1850 all the way up into the year 1974. My family is the 7th family to go into this dwelling. What's important to say is that when my mother and father had purchased this house in 1974, it was not what they were expecting. They basically purchased a derelict, abandoned home that had foot-high grass in the front, and the house from the previous owners had painted it black. I'm not joking, black. They said it was the darkest gray they could find. It was called slate gray. But due to contamination or weathering or whatever, it became black. And the photograph that I was shown as a child blew my mind. Everything, the roofing and the exterior was hung with a thing called they're pieces of wood called shingles. They had shingles on the outside of this Cape Cod style home, and they were painted, it was from the photograph, jet black, and the only thing that had any color was the white around the window frames. There was also a huge, massive tree that was in our front yard that was cut down a generation before then. So we had a very large stump. I swear to you, it was this big. And someone had drilled hundreds of holes in it, hoping that the tree would rot. And it did. And it created mushrooms, these wood mushrooms I remember as a child. It took my family almost 2 years of renovation to get that house just up to code to start to go living in it. Well, when they were doing the renovation, we started noticing, or I should say my parents started noticing, all kinds of unusual things in the house. The first thing was there was not a single level floor in the entire home. If you've not seen my previous video on the house, please check in for the link down below and you can watch part 1 of this where I talk about the history of the house, all of its secret doors, passageways, and all the other crazy stuff that we discovered during renovation. Now let's go back. So during the renovation, we started noticing that there was these huge, wide floorboards with square nails in them. All of the nails were handmade. We actually saved them. They're actually maybe 4 and 5 inches long, square. They were handmade nails. But the floorboards had these really strange squares in them, and we couldn't figure out what they were at first until a neighbor had told us. What we were looking at was the pew marks of the pews that were in our living room and our dining room. All of our floors squeak. It's a very unique home. But my parents have taken years and years and years and years and years to renovate this place. In 2023, my father had passed away, leaving the house to my mom and myself. And now I'll be inheriting this incredible home. Let's go right into the paranormal, shall we? About 1978 and 79 came, and I was upstairs in my mom and dad's slightly renovated bedroom at the time. They had taken 2 rooms and converted it into one, so it was a very large bedroom. And I remember I heard organ music for the first time. It's muted. It's like this. It's how, and my mom even talked about this. It is organ music. It is muted. I heard it as a child, but I never knew what I was listening to because I was upstairs playing with my, they weren't even Legos. They were like a little snap craft set, I guess from 1970s, from like a Sears and Roebuck's catalog type of thing. It was a, I don't know, Lincoln Logs, I think. I don't know the name of the toy, but I was upstairs and I heard that music for the first time. And I never told my parents what I had heard until years later. My mom was mentioning to my father that she was upstairs in the bedroom one day while my dad was at work and I was at school, that she heard organ music playing in the same bedroom, in the same corner. Now we had investigated, the next time we had heard it, We did investigation. We went outside and around the house to find out where it was coming from. Stereos, neighbors, nothing. Interior music coming from the upstairs, second floor bedroom during the late 70s. Now I had to find that out from my mom. I kept it a secret, and then she told me about her experiences later to my dad. The next thing that came in about 1980 or 81, we were in our kitchen, and my mother was a hospice nurse. She was a home health aide for a hospice, so she took care of many people who had passed away very quickly. And I remember her coming home. I was sitting at the kitchen table here. My mother had come through the kitchen door. She took off her purse. She put it on the kitchen counter. We have a lot of kitchen counter in this kitchen. And my mother came through. I could hear the keys be put down somewhere, but it didn't register. She went to use the bathroom. She says, I've got to go back to the hospital. I got another client to deal with. She came out of the bathroom and she goes, where are my keys? She picked up the purse. She put the purse down. We were searching. I got up. I was trying to help her. I thought she put it on the key rack. Maybe they fell onto the floor. Nothing. Well, I didn't know what was going on, right? Mom is going into the living room, back into the kitchen, into the parlor, into the pantry. And then all of a sudden, she goes back to the purse. She picks the purse up one more time, and there were the keys sitting there on the counter. She picked them up, and she goes, were these there the whole time? They weren't. About that was the early 1980s that happened. It was like it appeared, disappeared, and reappeared. Next on my list over here, from the 1980s, about 1981, 82, 83, we started having feelings that we were never alone in this home. My dad started to say it. I got to say something about my father. I have a goth mom, and my mom recognized the goth in me, but my dad is a muggle. Okay, my dad has nothing to do with the paranormal, ghost stories, anything with that, anything to do with the outer world, the other world, nothing. He doesn't believe in that stuff at all. Don't even talk to him about anything. It's just a regular work-a-day mechanic type of guy. You know what I'm talking? A beer drinking, Harley Davidson driving, Harley Davidson riding motorcycle type of guy who had nothing to do with the paranormal. However, my dad was the one who had the most experiences out of the three of us. I'm going into the part that you never felt alone. All three of us, no matter how long we've been there, for 50 years in this home, we all felt the same thing. Whenever we were home, alone in this home, we never, ever, ever felt alone. It's as if we thought something was upstairs or downstairs, or if you were in the living room, you felt like someone was in the kitchen. You never felt like you were completely alone. There was a sense of warmth that flows through that home. I don't know if it's the carpets or the wood or whatever. It just gives you you're surrounded by familiarity. You're never alone in this house. So moving right along in the warmth of the house. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the two dogs that we had. We had a dog named Muffin, who was a Scottish Terrier, and a dog named Missy, who was a German Shepherd, a black German Shepherd, which actually was a police warden's dog from a litter of puppies. And we had these two dogs from puppies. Every night for all that I can remember, the dog slept upstairs in my parents' bedroom. My dad was always the first person to go upstairs to the bedroom, and my mother was always the second. She was like, come on, Chris, let's go up. And basically, we would go up the stairs. My dad would already be in bed. My mom would go up the stairs, and then I would follow through and shut off the light. This very strange incident happened during the 80s, where the two dogs were at the bottom of the stairs, and my mother was like, come on, girls, come on, let's go, come on. Dogs just sat at the bottom of the stairs looking blankly at the top of the stairs. So my mom walked back down the stairs, and she was trying to push the German Shepherd up. The German Shepherd would come back down. She was like, the dogs were milling around her legs. They would not go up the stairs. This is an extremely odd experience. Because for years, the dogs would just bolt up the stairs, bolt up the stairs, bolt up. Every night we knew what to expect, right? Not this night. The dogs sat at the bottom of the stairs, staring blankly. I remember looking up at the top of the stairs, and what I saw was a white outline. I'm not sure exactly what I saw, but it was like a figurine, which I say was a veil, and more like an angled image. My first perception was it was a woman. My second perception was it was just an outline. I'll go a little bit more deeper about that on the second floor a little bit later when I talk about my dad. My mother was trying desperately to get these dogs up the stairs that night that I saw that. And then instantly, the dogs bolted up the stairs as if nothing ever happened when it was gone. Strange night we had that night. We talked about it for years. Why did the dogs not want to go up the stairs? Simultaneously, what happened that night? Don't know. My father retired early from as an auto mechanic, and he stayed home early because my dad was actually 7 years older than my mom. So he retired early, and I remember my dad telling this crazy story when I came home from school. He said, hey, he says, I had an experience today. He says, can you sit down and talk with me? I said, yeah, sure. I came home from school. I think it was in high school. Yeah, sure. And my dad said that he was upstairs in bed, and he knew that my mother had gone to work. And you got to remember, my mother's a nurse, right? She was wearing her white uniform to go to the hospital. And he said that he was in the bedroom upstairs, and he said he slightly opened his eyes, and he goes, wow, you're home early from work. He saw a woman at the edge of the bed. And he said, well, basically, my mom is home early, and my dad just turned over. It wasn't my mom. He experienced whomever, a figure, a woman, something dressed in white upstairs in our second floor bedroom. Was it the same entity that I saw at the top of the stairs? Who knows? But my mother came home that evening, and he goes, why were you home early from work today? And she says, Lou, I wasn't home at all today. I was at the hospital all day. Now, going a little bit deeper now, my mom, many years later, would also have the reverse experience. My mother was laying in bed. My father was out. She said that there was a short, fat man who appeared in the bedroom. This time, my mom says she reached her hand out to it. She wanted to know what he was presenting her with something. She said he had something in his hands, and he was presenting it to my mother, who laid in bed, and she reached her hand out. She woke up and she realized that there was nothing there. My experience was being in our kitchen during about 1985. I was at we have a refrigerator, and there's a wooden counter, and then the gas electric range, and in between this refrigerator and the electric range there's a wooden counter or chopping board, whatever you want to call it. And I believe I was chopping carrots that night, and I turned my head to the right, and there I saw a figure of a man which looked like he was from the Civil War, dressed with these like two straps across his shoulders, and like a pill style hat, kind of like a ramen noodle box on top of his head, ramen noodle container on top of his head. And he was watching television for a fraction of a second, and I looked again and there was nothing there. Years later, we had learned that there was a fellow by the name of Eli Thompson who had lived in our home, which might have something to do with the Civil War that was happening in New England, the New England area. Those who had joined the Civil War, who were recruited from New England, I should say. Going a little bit deeper, my first cousin's first husband visited with my mother's sister. So, okay, so I'll put that in perspective for you again. So, my cousin's husband visited our home for the first time with his mother-in-law, which is my mom's sister. That all makes sense to you. My mother's sister had never shared any experiences about our home or anything to do with our home. Well, I remember his name, but I think his name was Timothy? I'm not sure. He was sitting at our kitchen table for the first time. I think they were all having coffee and cake or something, talking about, coming into our family or being a part of our family, or did, because the kids just got married. And he asked my mother where the bathroom was. She goes, just around the corner. He got up from the table. He went around the corner, used the bathroom. He came bolting into the kitchen. My mother said his face was jet white. He says, I don't mean to scare you, he said, but while I was pissing, there was a man standing there looking at me. He says, there was a man standing right there while I was pissing, standing there looking at me. My mom had told me this on the phone, and I said, did you inform him about? She goes, nothing. She goes, and my sister told him nothing, because he never had been to our home. So it was just a very incredible experience that he had had. When I was a little boy, this is about 1984-ish, I was sitting in our living room. We have a long, long living room. As our bedroom is 2 rooms put together, our living room is 2 rooms put together. And I was sitting drawing. I didn't have coloring books. I had just pieces of scrap paper that I was drawing on. And I remember from the left-hand side, from the windows, a sound had appeared. And it was like, wah, wah. And this wave passed over me. It went over me like a blanket and passed over me. Very slowly, this wave got out from beyond me. And I stood up and I walked into the other room. And as I stood into the other room, it came at me a second time. This wave of static. The only thing it reminds me of is, like, when sometimes you have the TV and the TV goes like all like white and black particles, like that. It felt like as I was walking through a cloud of that. Not once, but twice. That was my experience. I told my parents that many years ago. That was unexplained about a few things that we have had. When I was a little boy, even much younger than the person, we had a young boy who was in the Boy Scouts, and he was on our front lawn waiting with his bicycles, with the bicycle, waiting for the other 2 neighbor boys to come to be picked up. They were going to a Cub Scout or a Boy Scout meeting, or I'm not sure what they were doing. This is 1970s, something or other. That night, my mother had gone to a meeting with a neighbor. By the time she came home, there was police cruisers and ambulances all over our front yard. And the reason is the little boy was hit on our front yard. He was killed. And my neighbor has actually said she has experienced him coming to her. And the really interesting part about that is that little boy is also her brother. She says he appeared to her in her bedroom one morning. Interesting enough, a lot of these experiences have to do with the bedrooms. He appeared to her, and she knew that it was him, because she says he looked just like he did when he was that age. I think he was maybe about like 12 years old. My neighbor my neighbor had shared with me when I got older that that experience had happened on our front lawn. And my mom and I have often wondered, is that little boy still there? Is that little boy still in that corner of the house? You know, because our living room was right there when it happened. Another experience that happened, this about 1981, there was this huge rumbling that had experienced in our living room. The living room shook violently. And I was sitting watching a program called Laverne and Shirley. If anyone out there is old enough to know this story. Laverne and Shirley. And I think it was the episode where they went to a supermarket and they won a shopping spree or something, and they were trying to get all these groceries and they failed at it. But I remember sitting on this little stool, and then the house just shook violently. The living room I was just bouncing like this, and my father came bolting into the other room. He goes, "What the hell was that?" And I just said, "Oh, it must have been a car going by." He goes, "Car?" He ran out the kitchen door. A 16-wheeler trailer truck had hit our home, jackknifed in our front yard. My dad was screaming, "Come outside, look at this." Now, here's where the story starts to change. The same little boy who got hit on our front lawns, mother and father were sitting in a car outside waiting to turn left out of our street, was the parents of the little boy who got hit. Almost got killed that night with the trailer truck in our front yard. True story. This home has had really some unusual experiences with it. We tracked down our previous owner to the home and asked him, was there any fires that ever occurred in the home? And she said, "Oh yes, there was one up in the attic." We did look at the post beams; they were all burnt, crisp. We've got a passageway that goes from our living room into the dining room, but our basement is the really unusual part of the house. It was hand dug after the 1850s. And through this digging, whenever you go down there, it feels like you are with somebody else. Everything is covered in cobwebs. Now we know that the fireplace in the center of our home was built by the Brown family about 1928, because in the cement he put his initials, WB, and 1928 when they sealed the cement. However, going down this flight of stairs, which is 150-year-old wood, past horsehair plaster, and God only knows what else is down there. But in this basement, whenever you go down and to the left and through it, you just feel like there's someone right around the corner. And if you are alone and you just be quiet for a moment, you can actually hear stuff. Cracks, creaking, an occasional bump, thunk, a thud. And it's like, what the hell is that? But these are things that I've often wanted to share in the first video of the experience. We haven't had any violent things happen. There was nothing really unusual there, but seeing these people or images or entities in our home while living there is enough for me. I mean, I'm a true believer in the paranormal. If you do not believe in the paranormal, believe me, I do believe in the afterlife. I do believe in the afterlife. This can't be it. How did we get here? Why are we here? All the ultimate questions. I mean, you didn't ask to be born, and neither did I. Some really strange and unusual things had experienced been here. So, If you have any experiences that you've ever had, please share them with me down below. I'd love to hear from you. Anything that you had from your childhood or any strange experiences, please leave them in the link down below. Give me a description. Tell me something. Share with me anything you want. Share with others your paranormal experiences that you had had. But these were the experiences that we had in our home over the years. Nothing violent, nothing Hollywoodish, but just really real, tangible experiences. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I'm wishing everybody a very happy and safe Halloween. Signing off, Gothically yours.